I grew up Catholic on Long Island, and I went to St. Patrick's School in Bay Shore, New York. I went to St. John the Baptist Diocesan High School in West Islip, and I was an altar boy. And as a lot of Catholic boys at that time who went to school that way, probably I thought about becoming a priest at one time. But when it came to college, I decided that I didn't want to go to Catholic route. My sisters both went to Lemoyne up in Syracuse, New York, great Jesuit school, but I wanted something different. So I had options. One of those options was the Naval Academy, and I really wanted to be a fighter pilot. But I went into my guidance counselor one day, and I said to him, Mr. McManus, I don't know if I want to go to the Naval Academy. And he said to me, if you don't know you want to go to the Naval Academy, you don't go to the Naval Academy. So what does someone who turns down the military do? They go to a Quaker college. That just makes sense, doesn't it? So from the very beginning of my time here at Guilford, we had a class back then called IDS 101. Today it's called First Year Experience, right? We studied the word empowerment. But we didn't just study it. We tried to embody it. We really wanted to know what it meant and what it felt like. And we studied Mark Matabani, for example, who is a South African black boy who came up out of apartheid to play college tennis here in the States, and today is an award-winning author and lecturer, and just an all-around great guy. I've had the opportunity to meet him a few times. Rigoberta Menchú, a Guatemalan woman who she lobbies today for indigenous peoples, and specifically indigenous Guatemalans. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1992. She ran for the Guatemalan presidency in 2007. Right? These people are pretty empowered people. Right? But why would Guilford want us to know these stories and as freshmen, as first-year students? And it came to me that they wanted us to know that we could change our lives. We could change other people's lives. That we had the power within us if we were willing to speak, to make change. And that we didn't just want to talk about change. We needed to allow for it, we needed to listen for it, and we needed to participate in it. A big, big thing to talk about when you're talking about a college and a freshman. Early on in my career, I had two very specific, what I'm calling empowerment problems. I had some conflicts. The first was as an employee, the second was as an employer. So I graduated Guilford with a business degree, and I went to Clear Channel Radio, but I didn't go to Clear Channel as a business person. I actually went as an on-air radio personality. Makes sense. I worked for the very first rock alternative station in America. It was called 94.5 The Rock Alternative. And I won't do that again, I swear. But it was really cool to be in the radio business. Today it's 105.7, man up if anyone around here listens to it. But my GM came in one day, and he has my resume in his hand, and he just says to me, you were a business major. It was a statement, so I didn't answer. And he said, how would you like to try your hand at advertising sales? And I said, sure, why not? That was my entire resume, that was my entire interview for the job of advertising sales. At the time, Clear Channel Radio was trying to go into off-air revenue. All their money was coming from the radio stations. And I was tapped to help with that. And the reason was this is the very beginning of the World Wide Web. This is when people started having local portals and things like that. And a lot of my advertisers were local internet service providers. They were budding internet businesses. So I partnered our radio station group with two local portals, one that was run by the News and Record and the other that was done by a company called Spider-Byte Communications. We were selling online advertising on those two portals in 1995, which is really the first year that anybody was doing that. So we were really ahead of the curve. In 1996, I put together this lovely little business plan that says, I want to take this and I want to create an internet group inside of Clear Channel Radio. And I put it together, presented it to my station group to say, I want to present it to Clear Channel Corporate. And I was told no. I wasn't just told no, I wasn't even listened to. And I sat there and I was empowered, right? And I said, I want to do this. This is something that we should be doing. And I was told no. And I figured out that I was a worker bee in this business. That no matter, it really wasn't my role to do what I had done. And that no matter how empowered, how smart the idea was, how brilliant the idea was, it wasn't going to be heard. And that's when I realized the first thing in business, that the belief that management would listen just because I was moved to speak, that's not always true in business. Second, right after this, made a professional change in my life. I decided to go into one of those internet companies and work for them as a marketing person. I was only there 3 months when I put together money They were an internet wiring business and an internet service provider, and they had a small web development business. They did websites for a number of their clients only because it was requested. They weren't good at it, and it was failing. I put together financing. I purchased that small business they had going on and created a company called Stratapult Studios, which was a website development company and an advertising agency based in Winston-Salem. So Stratapult Studios in 1996 had 4 employees. In 2000, we had 52 employees. Our revenue per head was approximately the same, so it'll give you a sense of the growth we experienced over those 4 years. And I sold the company to another company in Winston-Salem in 2000. But my leadership style at Stratapult can best be described as Quaker-ish, because I believed in the individual. I really wanted to hear what people had to say, and I didn't experience that before, so I was really driven to do it. And I thought if I gave that opportunity for people to speak, if I asked the questions, I'd get the answers. And what I found was I was getting answers that people thought I wanted to hear and not the answers they really thought. And I proved it to myself one day. I went to one of my art directors and I asked him a question where the answer to this question wasn't just no. The answer was expletive no, okay? And it was very clear that it should not have been any other answer than that, and that's not the answer I got. So I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why, if I have an open environment, that I opened up so people could speak, that they could actually say what was on their mind, I would listen. And even if their idea didn't become a corporate directive or an initiative, just the fact of hearing it was good. But I started to realize that not everybody was taught empowerment when they were in school. And that no matter how much light they had inside of them, the spirit wasn't going to be able to move them to speak. They had a fear of speaking their ideas. So, second realization in business is that this difference is what makes Guilford College graduates stand out. So, 2 things. As I said, the employee experience. I had an employer and an organization that wouldn't listen, and it stifled empowerment. As an employer, I had employees who were afraid to speak, and that stifled empowerment. But what does that have to do with entrepreneurism? What does it have to do with running a business? And I think, for me, I realized that not knowing those 2 things, being blind to that, my naivete that some organizations don't listen and some people are afraid to speak, allowed me to just do. I just acted. And was I fearless? No, I was scared to death. But I didn't let it limit what I was doing because I was an empowered individual. And I learned that here. It was a pretty cool thing to realize later on. So what did I then do? This realization, I had it as an employee, had it as an employer, but I didn't do it great as an employer the first time. So once I sold the company, I went on to work for public companies. I worked at Yahoo. I ran Florida and the Caribbean for them. I worked at a company called theglobe.com, and I ran multiple games properties, online, mobile, and magazines. And then since 2003, I've started 4 companies, sold 2, licensed 1, and failed at 1. But throughout those, I brought this Quaker-ish idea, but I changed something. And I decided that at the top, I needed to communicate what that was to employees because not everybody was taught it. I created a good environment, I hoped. But I wanted them to know how to really start doing it. And I had 2 rules. Anyone who's ever worked for me has heard these rules many times. And the first one is it's all about issues. If there's an issue or an idea that you have, there's 2 ways to present it because time is very important. So the first is, I don't know how to deal with this, but this is the issue. So they get heard. Second is, this is the issue, and I think this is what we should do to deal with it. Both, again, they get to speak. And if you have that opportunity to give the idea, again, even if it doesn't become a corporate directive, just having heard it is important to the individual, right? So setting it up this way, I hope I'm empowering people. I really do. I truly do want to hear the ideas. But the realization that people aren't always taught that allowed me to go out and go back and find a way that hopefully I'm eliciting that and I'm pulling that out of people. And that the individual being able to state their idea, just say it. And again, even if it doesn't become a business initiative, that it's so important to the individual to know that they can do that. But it's just as important to the organization to be open to hearing it. And I hope that all of you get to experience that. I really do. Thank you very much.